everybody, it's Romania Black, and it's been like 2 weeks since I've watched The Great Pretender. I haven't gone this long without watching a show in a long time, but I recently went on a trip, and I have not had time to sit down and watch Great Pretender since I've gotten back, and this has been like the first night I've gotten a chance to watch it, and it's been over 2 weeks, so I had to like refresh myself. Okay, what happened when we last left off? And we last left off on a cliffhanger, so... but basically, we left off with Makoto and Cynthia and Abigail trying to get the kids out of the Yakuza gang that had basically was trying to traffic them. And then Makoto's father says he seemingly ended up betraying them to go back with the company. And we don't know where Laurent is. It's just things were up in the air. We don't know. All we know is that Makoto's father is the Wizard of Oz. Basically, the Wizard of the Far East. And so, man, these last couple episodes have been a little bit rough because we've seen Makoto slowly get corrupted, where he's like been smoking and he's slowly like becoming someone that's not who is the Makoto that we know. And I want Makoto to go back to being the way he was, and I don't know if that's possible anymore, and it's so frustrating. And Laurent is being super mysterious. You know there's something going on, and I just, it just irks me because I want to know, but I want to be surprised, but I just want Makoto to be okay by the end of this and not get corrupted beyond all belief. That's all I want. So, I do actually have a couple comments before we start. Alex Cornejo talks about how Edamura actually ended up choosing love over profit, and my dog is playing with a bone by Whiteboard-kun, so if you hear something, that's him. Because he doesn't know we're recording over here. But Edamura ended up choosing love in the art case over the crown. He ended up choosing love over power because he could have kept the painting and gotten all the prestige and all the money and greed and wealth, but he chose to give that up for the sake of helping the relationship with Cynthia and Thomas, helping Farrah in the end. Like, it ended up being Edamura choosing love. Oh my god, Huckleberry is being the most ridiculous. Choosing love over prestige and money. So, I don't know what that will say for the rest of the cases, but I'm glad, Alex, that you brought that up. And then Neil Cherian talked about that there might have been an inconsistency in the show, in that Cynthia had the British accent when we established, what in the world? Hold on. Oh my god, there was a piece of a bone stuck in the wheel of Whiteboard-kun, and I was like, really? But that's where we are. So hopefully we won't have any more of that. You'll just hear him chewing in the background. But there was maybe an inconsistency where Cynthia used the British accent, and they were like, wasn't this all supposed to be translated in Japanese? Wasn't that the joke? And I don't know, some people tried to argue that it was just for that episode or whatever, but whether it's a plot consistency or inconsistency, I'm fine with it. At this point in the series, it's fine, but that is curious. It made me think about it a little bit, so Neil, I get where you're coming from. I get what you're saying, so I thought that was interesting to point out, but I'd have to listen to the English dub to see if it ends up becoming a thing or not, but who knows? But then it got me thinking, it was like she had the British accent, and I was like, well, everything's been translated in Japanese up until this point, but then that was when we were in the US, so maybe it's different once we're in Japan, but then the Chinese characters were speaking in Chinese, but they were still being dubbed in Japanese, so we're just not going to worry about it. We're just not going to worry about it, and everything's going to be all right. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's been 2 weeks since I've watched Great Pretender. I've been wanting to get back into it, and it just hasn't worked out. And tonight I was like, no, I'm doing it. I have no choice. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm so wanting to see what's going to happen next, but I'm so dreading it because I feel the angst coming on, and I don't want angst. So I'm like, I just want Makoto to go back to being the being that he was, and my fear is that he's forever changed by this case, and I don't know what to do with that. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being glass half empty. Maybe I should be more optimistic. But we'll find out, right? So we're going to watch episode 18 of The Great Pretender and find out what's going to happen. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do this, y'all. These episodes are really hard to watch. painful episode. This episode was just straight up pain. Just straight up pain. And like my stomach kind of feels sick. Like just sitting here talking to you all about this. I loathed this episode for so many reasons. And then I was like, about halfway through, I was like, show, why are you doing this to me? Why are you making me feel like so mad at Makoto for giving up and just accepting his place in this corrupt system? Like, why are you doing this to me, show? Why are you making me not like Makoto anymore? Why are you making me do this? And then you bring Laurent into it, and then you start giving us his backstory, and I was just about to like get so frustrated at this show, and then I was like, well, now I have to know what happens. Like, how did we get here? We skipped around so much. I feel like there are so many chunks of the story missing from this episode that I'm like, but wait, what? That we're going to have to go back and fill in the gaps, right? That we're just going to have to go back and fill in the gaps. But I was like, I'm sick to my stomach at how much Makoto just made me so sad. I was like, Makoto, why are you doing this? And it's because he just gave up. I'm like, did you not question where Laurent was? He didn't question where Laurent went. He didn't like the kids. He was sitting there selling the kids. Like, I wanted to cry. I'm so pissed off, I'm not gonna cry! Like, that's why I'm at. I'm like, oh, Makoto, why? I just want to yell at this show. I just want to yell at it. I remember, like, a long time ago, like, when I first started the show, there was a couple people who were like, oh, that show, I both love it and I'm so hateful at it. And I'm like, oh, why would you think that? Now I know. And we still have, this show only has 23 episodes, so it's an odd numbered thing. So we only have 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. We only have 5 episodes left. And we're getting Laurent backstory. So it's all going to tie together, right? It's all going to come to a head. Laurent does not seem worried about the fact that Abigail and Cynthia are gone. Doesn't seem to be worried. Hasn't checked in with Makoto. Doesn't seem bothered. Things are happening, and we don't know what. The Oz, Makoto's dad, knows Laurent. I'm assuming from the human trafficking, knows that whole business. So let's just back up, because this series has just left me suddenly with a headache. And lots of things that we don't know. So Ishigami is a second in command. Okay, so we have the Yakuza. We have the Yakuza and Akemi. Akemi is the leader. And her right-hand man is Ishigami. Right? Okay. Ishigami is the second, maybe. But also, we're going to put Makoto over here. Edamura. He's right there. All right. So we've got that. And their whole thing is just running a lot of things, but mainly human trafficking. And with all of these kids, right? That's kind of the system that they run, right? And they're not the only organization that does it. There's others as well. The ones that they kind of have the rivalry with, the ones they have the rivalry with are the ones from Shanghai, right? That the character Lou is involved in, right? Lou is involved, and Oz, who is Makoto's dad, is the translator. All right. It's so funny that we brought up the idea of language and like Cynthia speaking in British and us kind of abandoning the whole Japanese thing. It's getting abandoned throughout this, right? Because there's still Japanese used, but like now there's Mandarin being thrown in. There's a little bit of inconsistency there, but I'm fine with it. It's fine. We can do it. It's okay. But yeah, it's kind of like, because then when we cut to in Belgium, they're not speaking Belgium, they're speaking Japanese. So, or are they? I was so speechless and mind blown by this episode that I was like, what? So, and then, okay, so we'll put Laurent and all of them in this. But basically, Akemi, she sees Makoto like her son who left, right? Her son who left, she sees him kind of as such, right? She sees him like him, and Ishigami says that the son left the organization and she's always seemingly regretted it, right? He talks about how she regretted it. He said he wasn't cut out for this work, so he left home and kind of abandoned. You should have seen how depressed she was. So she kind of sees Makoto being like her son and wants to kind of Stockholm syndrome him in, which he kind of goes along with. I'm like, Makoto, what the fudge? So basically, we'll skip the intro. I'm like, what the hell? So essentially, get this down right. So essentially, they get caught. They were caught. And then the kids were taken back. And then Laurent went MIA. And Makoto doesn't question it, right? And then he has to, and then Oz, if I get this right, Oz shoots Abby and Cynthia. But here's the thing. So Oz, Abby, and Cynthia get shot. There's blood. But we've had this series, and then we've had this series before where blood, there could be fake blood, who knows what, blood caplets, who knows what's going on. There could be blood packets, we don't know. But Makoto, he shoots his father. Now, he seemed pretty sincere. The thing about Makoto that frustrates me so much is that, like Cynthia and Abby, I feel like they are not dead. Absolutely not. No, because I feel like we've seen Abby and Cynthia in cases where, I don't know, I feel like they would have been more panicked than they were. And maybe they were putting on a front. Maybe they were like, screw you, whatever. But they didn't show any fear whatsoever. And we've seen Abby afraid, and we've seen Cynthia afraid. So we know they're capable of showing those emotions, but they didn't show any at all. So I feel like Abby and Cynthia knew what was going to happen and were prepared for it, maybe. But how? And then how did Oz not die? Did he just, how? Because here's the thing that's so frustrating about Makoto is Makoto has always been, he's always come from a place of being genuine and not acting. Or when we see him act, we know that we know that he's acting. We know that it's a front. Whenever he acts, he kind of lets on that he is, and we, the audience, have been like, oh yeah, Makoto's acting in this instant. But in this episode, I don't think he's acting, and that's what pisses me off so much, because I'm like, Makoto, like, he has this moment, like when they're basically dragged in front of them, and she basically like gets on Abigail and asks her to beg for her life, and Abigail's like, no, just kill me and get it over with. And then Cynthia's like, by the way, you smell like an old woman. And she's like, I don't care. Don't translate it. It's not a problem. We're not worried. And so then, but they're conveniently on the edge of the boat where they can instantly fall back into the water and go out of sight, out of mind thing, right? I'm not surprised that they got shot. I figured that they are fine because Laurent, I feel like Laurent would be upset, but it's been 2 months, so maybe we haven't seen him like grieve over them, but so then she says that Oz asked her to spare him, and he says, see what happens when you get carelessly involved, like you didn't think this through. And of course Makoto gets mad at him because he's mad about this whole thing, and he says it was my mistake. And Cynthia says, you've got it all wrong. Whoever's the last one standing is the one who succeeds. Get it over with. So I don't think they're dead, though. They can't be, right? So there's this idea about the last one standing. That it's like a fight, whoever's the strongest will survive, right? I feel like they are showing a parallel between, we're going to put Laurent over here. In some regards, I feel like there's a little bit of a parallel there in that Makoto gets really upset seeing his friends die, and Laurent was likely upset when his mother died, because we assume that the mom died. We said the mom, we'll talk about the mom. She basically died, though. And I'm assuming that maybe Laurent and Makoto have been in... we're going to talk about that. Okay, we're going to talk about that, of how Laurent and Makoto are kind of similar in this stage, the parallels between them. I'm just kind of floored still. I'm trying to like gather my thoughts because this episode was just a freaking mind trip. But so Oz shoots them and they say that they weren't friends. She's like, we're not friends or family. And he's like, I can never hurt you guys. And Abby doesn't seem surprised by this. And that's when Oz shoots them. And Makoto just absolutely loses it. And that's when Akemi is like, we're not going to let the translator go because he works for the enemy. We're going to have, as penance, we're going to have Makoto kill him. And he does. And so Makoto, in anger, it's just like he gives up. He gives up hope. He gives up hope of there being lawfulness and justice and any good in the world. And in the moment, you kind of get where Makoto's coming from because his father was this symbol. His father was this symbol of becoming a good person. And if you are lawful and just, everything will turn out right. And you'll be able to have this great life if you just do this, right? And Makoto has tried to do that, and everything, it's like everything good that Makoto's tried to do has backfired, and he's been led down this path, and his father, who was the one symbol that was anchoring him that, oh, this man did bad, but maybe he could be good in the end. He not only betrayed him, got the kids back arrested, but also killed two people he considered friends, and Makoto just gave up. He was like, screw it, the world's cruel, and these kids are just going to get taken back in trafficking, so I might as well just fall in line, and if the world's going to be cruel, then I'm just going to be cruel along with it. And I hate that! I was like, no! So it's almost like Makoto just gives up any hope, shoots his father, and then he has this moment afterwards, because Akemi wants Makoto to be like her son. He says, even those con artists, you said you weren't partners. Yeah, like the Oz tries to talk himself out of it, saying like, hey, it's fine. And he looks so desperate there. He's like, believe in me, please. And when he says, believe in me, he's like just looking at Makoto and the look on his face. He says, believe in me. And he says, always be lawful, contribute to the world, and be a respectable person. And those three things, to be lawful, respectable, and contribute to the world, Makoto just decides to say, fuck it. Nope. Because none of that turned out. But the sad thing is, I feel like Oz was telling Makoto that from the start because he didn't want him to end up like him. But through this train of events, Makoto has seen how awful his father really was, and he doesn't understand that that's what his father's trying to tell him and what he was trying to tell him, and instead he's like, screw it. No. What's the point? He's like, my mom's dead, my friends are dead, you killed them, you led to my mom's, collapsing and going and deteriorating more and blaming him for her, and he's like, nope. And he just gives up, and I hate it! I'm so mad, right? And then we go back to where he hasn't ate for 3 days, and she makes Makoto eat because she starts to like Stockholm Syndrome mother him because she wants him to be like her son. And Makoto's just like, she offers him the soup, and he sits there and cries it out, and she just comforts him, and that's like all. And suddenly she's all he has left. And the creepiest thing was he was giving her like the cat toys, treating her like she was his mom. And I'm like, Makoto! Like he gets so Stockholmed into it. He like kind of accepts his role because that's all he has now. If he tries to leave, she's just going to try to catch him and kill him. And he doesn't want to die. And he doesn't see any other out, so he just accepts his fate. And it's just so frustrating. And I hate it so much that he's working for her with the cat toy. And like anytime he looked fondly at her and smiled, I'm like, Makoto, you're part of a human trafficking ring. You're no different than your dad. What are you doing? And like him in the helicopter, like he acts like he gives her the cat toy. Like I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then the worst part is when they go, she's like, I'm counting on you as the auction. The worst part is he looks like a damn clown when he's telling the kids to smile. I'm like, those were kids you cared about and that you tried to rescue. And now you're auctioning them off and the kids are staring at him like he's the biggest hypocrite. Like the kids are just staring at him like, what a monster that he's become. Like when the kid stares back at him, right? When the kid like gets off the runway and looks back to stare at Makoto, who's sitting there like auctioning off, and Makoto's like smiling and being all in the role. I like part of you wants to think, oh well, Makoto's just playing the con, but he's not anymore. He's just become the bad guy. He's become a villainous character, and I'm like, why? I hate to see Makoto at this point where he's just given up hope. I hate it. He's like at this so low point and he's just accepted that he's going to be part of this human trafficking thing, and something that like was disgusting that disgusted him. He just thinks it's just going to be just part of life and they just have to accept it. And I hate it. Ugh. So mad at this episode. I was like getting so pissed off and he's just sitting there smoking, right? And then Ishigami gets mad at him, being like, Ishigami's like, why is she like so invested in you? And Ishigami sees the writing on the wall that he's becoming like the second in command and he hates it. So I'm like, so then we cut to Chin and Liu from Shanghai. And he's like, they're going to try to start a war. We need to do something before that. And like, I hate Makoto smoking. I hate him smoking. I want to like rip all the cigarettes away from him and get it away. I hate it. But it's like the whole smoking. We'll talk about Laurent. We'll talk about him. I'm just like, damn it. And then he goes up and sees his dad standing there. I see you've been promoted. Let's have a little talk. It's a pretty long story. So we don't start from the beginning of the story, though. I feel like we jump through a lot of hoops, and we'll have to backtrack to catch up with things. But Oz is somehow connected to Laurent. Why not? Why not at this point? We knew Laurent knew Oz, but they know each other. So in Shanghai, the one guy, Lou, is telling this story about the translator. And he says, why didn't you find out where he was going? And he's like, oh, it's fine. He's going to come back. Our translator's gone missing. That's all. It's not a big deal. And he says, that's why you're dumb. He's like, just now, I asked a fortune teller who's famous overseas to tell my fortune. It seems like the results were good. He said, now is the time to settle things once and for all. And he's like, oh, really? So that means the time has come that they're going to attack Akemi. But we still have a problem, he says. And so he goes into this story about, he's like, do you know who Mishima is? And he's like, no. He's like, what's the problem? He says, Mishima was a Japanese author who everyone thought he'd be first to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature. But in the end, the one who received the prize was Yasunari Kawabata, his senior. What makes the two of them different? And he's like, well, did Kawabata bribe the judges? And he was like, no, the difference is in the translation. Some say that Kawabata's work were translated better. So he tells this story, right? He tells this story about how you have two individuals who both had an opportunity, but in the end, the winner was whose story was better received, was better translated and received. So I like that translation, because this entire series has been about language barriers and things like that, and how we communicate with one another. And it's from episode 1, that was a thing. There was a language barrier, and so we solved that language barrier, right? And so he's suggesting the winner was the one who people were better able to relate to and identify. That was who the winner was. It wasn't a matter of who technically was better. It was whose work was received better by the population. And he's like, oh, I thought it was some crazy secret. He says, when competing in a foreign country, the language barrier is more difficult to cross than we can imagine. We need reading the thoughts of the other party through minor details in their change of tone, things like that. So it's almost like he's suggesting that Oz is able to read that difference. And so maybe there were things that Oz was doing that day on the boat that he was able to sense with Cynthia and Abby. Maybe there was something there. Maybe something was lost in translation that we're not sure about. But in any case, I'm wondering if it's going to be the idea of, okay, how we take this. It seems like we're going to stay in a flashback with Laurent for a little bit, at least for the next episode, because we have to backtrack and because we had at the start of this case, Laurent taking Dorothy in to see the Northern Lights. He just stabbed her in the gut. I don't see her living. He seemed pretty horrified about it, so I have theories. We'll get to them, but basically it's assuming that how we receive the rest of the story is going to impact who we side with. Are we going to side with Laurent? Are we going to side with Oz? Are we going to side with Makoto? Makoto's gone so far off the deep end, and but Makoto has always been really easy to manipulate. Since the beginning, Makoto wears his heart on his sleeve, and that makes him powerful, but it's like a double-edged sword. He can be a powerful manipulator himself, but he can also be easily manipulated by others. So it's been like this double-edged sword from the beginning, and we see just how quickly he falls. And I'm like, Makoto! Ugh! So yeah, what the fudge? But yeah, he says translation software is completely useless. We need a good translator. Oz's disappearance is pretty detrimental. Without a reliable translator, he says our position in future negotiations will be in jeopardy. And he's like, well, then let me get my people to investigate. So meanwhile, they need Oz back. They don't know where Oz is, but they got to go figure out where he is. Meanwhile, we have this guy who is getting the tofu and gets interrupted by Laurent saying that was a big help. He's like, no big deal. So what did he give him? He's like, I'm not fond of tofu. He's like, I'll think. And he's like, okay, well then I'll get something for my sweetheart Dako. So Laurent is in the section, right? He's in the Shanghai. These other two can have these leftovers. And then that's when Laurent has the ring. And he kisses the ring from Dorothy. Like whatever he's about to do, he's like, I'm doing this for you. Okay. And he's like, I'm going after, and he just whisks away, goes past her. He's like, I'm here to see the boss. And he speaks in Mandarin. I was like, seeing Junichi speak in Mandarin is amazing. He's like, I haven't played Mahjong with him in a while. Now, was he being serious or was he being sarcastic? And he's like, thanks for your advice. Tell Mr. Liu that Laurent is here. Okay, so why? And then we see Makoto, with the figurines all in front of him. He's been getting all the different capsule figurines. So clearly Makoto maybe isn't happy about any of this. He's just been going along with it. But okay, so Laurent knows Liu, but how does he know Liu? And does Oz know that Laurent knows him as well as he does? What is this con? How deep does this go? What can of worms? I was just honestly, I was getting ready to be really mad at this series. And I was like, if this series keeps going down this path, I'm not going to be happy with it. But then this stuff with Laurent shows up and I'm like, damn it, show. Damn it, you're keeping me sucked in, damn it. So, okay, so Laurent was born in Belgium. And so Laurent he knows Liu and maybe Oz. But does Oz know him? We don't know. How long has it been? He's clearly doing this for Dorothy. Okay. So he was born in Brussels, right? So he's not even French, right? He's really from Belgium. And his mom, what we don't know is, was she dyslexic? Oh my God. If I can spell. I feel like she was maybe dyslexic and she couldn't read properly. Was that correct? But Laurent, or Laurie, as she called him, wanted to be a diplomat. Which that's such like the cruel, heartless thing about this series is that you had like Makoto wanted just to have a normal job, Laurent wanted to be a diplomat, his dad was a lawyer, and then they all went down these dark paths. Cynthia was going to be married to an artist, like, and Abby wanted to be a ballerina. Like they all had these aspirations and dreams, and the cruel world like just crushed it and threw it apart. But he's sitting there looking at the capsules, right? Oz is, and Makoto, I feel like I'm surprised at how calm Makoto is, given how pissed off he was with his dad. But he's like, I've got to tell you a story. You're probably wondering how I lived through all this. So maybe we'll find out. It's like a long time ago in Brussels, Belgium, a boy lived happily with his mother. And we're just going back to the past. And so the mother owned the Boutique de Emma. His mom seems like Emma was her name. And it's like all these people came to visit. And so then clearly it looks like that maybe they don't have a lot of money and his dad's not there. And so then we have this guy that shows up at the boutique saying, do you have any questions? She's like, it's all right. Thank you for all you've done. And he has the cat there, right? Having dyslexia is nothing to be ashamed of. So yeah, so she had dyslexia and he took advantage of her because she couldn't read, right? And Laurent sitting there with the cat. And you can see from the house that they have that they don't have much. It looks a little threadbare. But, because he's still in like the same clothes he was earlier. In fact, I'm impressed you're investing in your son's future. Right? And we see how much older that man got. Because at first I didn't recognize him. He's like, Laurie, your mother is a magnificent person. Because he's sitting there reading, right? And he's studying like math. And he was studying French, wasn't he? So this man, so we have a lot of like cutting moments here. So the man shows up. And basically has her sign Laurie away. Basically he basically bought Laurie is what it sounds like. Like he just basically convinced her to sell him to her. Right? Your mother is a magnificent person. Oh, and I could tell you be good and help her out. Because it says contract descendic. Okay, so there's a contract there. And there's company HG. And it's official. And then she goes to get him. And she's like, I did sign it. And then that's when she collapses. And so it seems like she collapses and maybe has a heart attack. Maybe dies. I'm assuming she dies. And then all we see is that it cuts from then to Paris, France, at this Aubion Avon, this bar. So there's a passage of time. So signs Laurie away. And then there's a missing period of time, right? Which we'll talk about in a minute. A missing period of time. And then we see Laurent playing poker with his kitties, the girls, and I like how he does that. So I like that there's been the cat motif throughout the entire story. You have Makoto with the cat motif and his mom, and Laurent with the cat motif and his mom. Same thing. So there's a lot of similarities between the two of them. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But anyway, so he's sitting there playing poker with the girls, right, and swindling them out of their money. And Laurent, of course, Junichi has to, like, have the smooth-talking voice. Like, Junichi Suabe is, like, perfect for this. I love Laurent's long blonde hair that looks like his mother's. Like he looks like Sex on a Stick. I'm like, why, show? I have a horrible attraction to blonde-haired guys with blue eyes. Why are you doing this to me? And he's like, I fold. And then all the girls, it's like two pairs, king and an ace. And he has a full house. And then takes like all the girls. And the guys are like, what? And then they all beat him up and leave him in the street. If you want to blame someone, and they punch him out. But the thing that gets him is like when he wakes up in the trash, like he's in the trash heap there. And we'll talk about this with the cigarette and everything. That he has a cigarette and he's like down on his luck. And then we see the people come out. We see Dorothy come out of the bar. Right? And he's like, I told you we don't have any for tomorrow. We don't have eggs. And she's wearing like ruby slippers. Dorothy is. And they walk right past him. We can get eggs anywhere. But he knows him. But did he know her at the time? So he saw them walking together and followed them as they walked up through there. So the question is, and it seems like at that moment, he has poker with the girls. He sees Dorothy with the man that bought him, sees them together, and then he gets the knife to attack him. Wow. There's so much there, though. There's so much there that I'm like, but wait, but what? Like, he goes to get that and sneaks up behind him, and he's aged, and when he goes to, like, attack him, he gets her instead. But then what? And then he sees her, like, fall down and says, Dorothy. But now, did she actually die? Or what? And then, of course, he freaks out because he's killed her. But what we don't know is how much time did he know Dorothy before? Or is this where he meets her? How? What? So, in the passage of time that was missing, we need to know, like, did the man take Laurie and sell him? And he's been chasing after him to try to track him down. Did he know Dorothy? Did he know Dorothy beforehand? And this was the first time he met her when he stabbed her? Or did he know Dorothy before and seeing her with him and she left Laurent for him? And that's what I just like, there's so much in this last minute that I'm like, we're missing 10 scenes. You've got to insert those scenes in there so we know the full picture. But this show isn't going to do that, damn it. It's going to, like, just throw crumbs at us randomly and been like, oh, you put the pieces together. It's like it took the puzzle part that's Laurent's backstory and said, okay, well, here's a piece. Okay, go catch this one. Go catch that one. They're not all connected. You're going to piece it all together. I have a feeling I'm going to have Whiteboard-kun out the rest of this series trying to piece this together. But my point was, there is a connection where you have both Makoto and Laurent and the smoking. Like when you have Laurent smoking in the garbage pile, you have Makoto smoking at the work. Like they're both like at their lowest points, right? Seemingly at their lowest points until Makoto shoots his dad and Laurent stabs the woman that he loves. Up until that point, they're at their lowest points, and then they get even lower, right? So, but then the question then becomes, okay, Makoto's at his lowest point. What is he going to find out, and how is this going to change him? Why is Oz telling Makoto about Laurent? Why is he telling him about him? Does he suspect Laurent's going to try to get involved? Why tell him? Did Oz know that Laurent was chasing after Makoto this whole time? Has Laurent and Oz been in contact with one another this entire time? But it seems like Makoto and Laurent both have had these moments where they kind of gave up on life. And then what has Laurent been doing and what's Makoto been doing? That's the thing. And is Abigail and Cynthia still alive? I assume they are. I don't know, damn it. But I'm like, I feel like Makoto just completely drank the Kool-Aid, gave up, let himself be Stockholm Syndromed, and I hate it beyond all belief. I cannot tell you all how much I loathed that part of this episode. And then Oz, what is his deal? What's his game? What is his in plan? What about, Akami's in plan, her stuff, she's pretty easy to read. She's not trying to hide much. Like Cynthia and Abigail, what's the deal with them? How are they involved in this? Are they dead? We don't know. And then Laurent, I feel like we just got a few puzzle pieces of his story, but we don't have the full picture. And we need to see more. So what I'm basically saying is that one, Whiteboard-kun is probably going to have to be present the rest of this season to figure all this stuff out. And two, I'm not waiting 2 weeks anymore to watch the next episode. I'm not waiting a week. I'm sorry if I watch ahead, but I have to know. So I feel like for the next episode, we're going to have to like detail out Laurent's like journey on Whiteboard-kun and fill in the gaps as we go and go from there. But I just, my big thing with Laurent is, what is his end goal? Right? I'm assuming he got revenge on the man that caused his mother to die and trafficked him. I'm assuming that's the case. But if Laurent knows how bad this trafficking is, and he knows how horrible this situation is, if he likes Makoto, why is he putting him through all this shit? Was he hoping Makoto would go with him and figure it out? What? Or did he expect Makoto to try to fight back and end up in this position? Is he disappointed in Makoto? Does he think Makoto can still get out of this? I'm like, Makoto's done a lot that I don't know like how he's going to redeem himself. Like him being complicit in the trafficking of these kids, I don't know how Makoto's going to win himself over to me again. I don't know. Makoto's fallen so far. And why has Laurent let all of this happen? What's the point? It feels beyond a con. At this point, Akemi and all of this is all something bigger than just a con game. But why get Makoto involved? Unless does Laurent want revenge on Oz so badly that he's willing to like make Oz lose his son in the process? I thought Laurent liked Makoto. But if he does, then my ship's in jeopardy. Like there's some holes in my ship. I don't know what to do. Y'all, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say, but I I need to let my mind simmer down, process this a little bit more. Not sure I'm going to wait until y'all see the next episode to make comments, but I'll answer your comments when I get to them. Please don't spoil me. And I'll just have to have Whiteboard-kun at the ready. Show. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm intrigued, but I feel like I don't know if I'm not going to have regrets. So we'll just see, right? What could happen, right? This episode, I'm a big bundle of nerves, as you can tell. But I'm looking forward to your comments down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back for episode 19 of The Great Pretender. Bye.